Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to discuss about two important crops. First one is sorghum, next one is pearl millet. First is sorghum. Scientific name is Sorghum bicolor, and it is an indigenous crop to Africa. It will remain as a basic staple food for many rural communities. Rural people they mainly consume sorghum and bajra as a staple food crop. And sorghum it is known as camel crop because it has the capacity to withstand against drought. It can be grown well in dryland areas also. It needs very less amount of soil moisture and it can withstand a drought. That's why it is known as camel crop. And it is preferred in tropical, warmer and semi-arid regions because of its drought adaptation capability. And it contains 72% carbohydrate, 10 to 12% protein, 3% fat, and 1.6% minerals. Coming to root system, like other cereals, sorghum is also having two types of root system. First one is primary root system, second one is secondary root system. Primary
Excuse
root
me, sir.
system, it is temporary, and primary roots they develop mainly from germinating seed, and they help the seedling with the water and nutrients from the soil. They provide the seedling with soil moisture and nutrients, but primary roots have limited growth. If secondary roots are developed, these primary roots automatically they will decay, and the secondary roots they develop from nodes below the soil surface. Secondary roots they are also known as adventitious roots. Adventitious root system is permanent root system. This primary root system is temporary root system. पहले प्राइमरी रूट सीड से डेवलप होता है और वो सीडलिंग के लिए वाटर और न्यूट्रिशन देता है. जब सेकेंडरी रूट्स डेवलप
हेलो
होते हैं तब ये प्राइमरी रूट्स डिसअपीयर हो
हेलो
जाते हैं.
सर
यस.
सर स्लाइड शो नहीं हो रहा है.
अब दिख रही है.
यस सर.
First, sorghum it is having two types of root system, primary root system and secondary root system. प्राइमरी रूट्स ये सीड से डेवलप होता है और वो सीडलिंग के लिए वाटर और न्यूट्रिएंट्स देता है. लेकिन प्राइमरी रूट्स दे हैव लिमिटेड ग्रोथ. अगर सेकेंडरी रूट्स डेवलप हुआ तो ये प्राइमरी रूट्स ऑटोमेटिकली दे डिसअपीयर हो जाते हैं. सेकेंडरी रूट सिस्टम को कहा जाता है परमानेंट रूट सिस्टम और एडवेंटिशियस रूट सिस्टम. These secondary roots they develop from the nodes below the soil surface. This permanent root system it grows in two directions, lateral direction and downward direction. They branches freely and they grows both laterally and downwards into the soil. And these roots are finer and they branch approximately twice as much as roots from maize plants. That means they are having very strong root system compared to maize plant. That's why they are able to extract the soil moisture from much deeper soil layers also, which will be advantageous in dry areas. Next one is stem. Stem of the sorghum is solid, dry, succulent and sweet. Under favorable conditions, more internodes will develop and healthy leaves will develop, and it produces a longer stem under favorable conditions. Favorable conditions means if optimum soil moisture, optimum temperature, optimum relative humidity should be present. Stem it generally consists of nodes and internodes, and this diameter of stem it varies between 5 millimeters and 30 millimeters. One of the main characteristics of the sorghum is these internodes. That means stem it is covered by thick waxy layer. It is in blue white color. Main advantage of this waxillary is we know it reduces the transpiration. If transpiration is reduced, that means moisture loss from plant will be less and moisture content of plant will be more, क्योंकि ट्रांसपिरेशन से लीफ और स्टेम से पानी निकल जाता है. अगर ट्रांसपिरेशन कम हो गया तो हमारा मॉइस्चर लॉस भी कम होगा प्लांट से और कंजर्वेशन ऑफ मॉइस्चर ज़्यादा होगा, प्लांट में मॉइस्चर कंटेंट ज़्यादा रहेगा, which increase the drought tolerance of these plants. We know sorghum is drought tolerant, and this waxillary it is one of the main reasons for this drought tolerance. And one more root system is there, that is prop roots, proper brace roots. This root band of nodes below or just above the soil develops prop roots. Generally, it develops above the soil surface. And main function of this prop roots is it gives support, anchorage to the plants. क्योंकि sorghum, maize, bajra, ये सब they are very tall plants. They may bend one side, which reduce the yield and increase the pest infestation. But these prop roots or brace roots, they give support, anchorage at the base of the plant, such that they won't bend. And sorghum leaves, they are generally green, grass-like, flat, but they are not as broad as maize leaves. The sorghum, they have a leaf area smaller compared to maize crop. That means sorghum is having less leaf area compared to maize crop and strong root system. If leaf area is small means, if leaf area is small, that number of stomata in that leaves will be small. If number of stomata are less and the transpiration will be less, it is also helpful in conservation of moisture in the plant. And the leaf blade, it is long, narrow and pointed. Leaf blades are of young leaves are upright, but blades tend to bend downwards as leaves mature. That means पहले ये vertical shape में रहता है leaves, but if a crop is maturing, just they bend downwards. Stomata, it occurs on both surface of leaf, on upper surface and lower surface. Here we can see one unique characteristic of sorghum leaves. It is having the rows of motor cells along the midrib on upper surface of leaf. Here we see it is having rows of motor cells along the midrib on the upper surface of leaf. Main function of these motor cells is whenever this moisture stress happens, suppose if soil moisture is less, a plant is unable to take the moisture from the soil, these cells they can roll up their leaves, means folding of leaves will happen, so that transpiration will be less and it protects the leaves from moisture stress. And leaves they are covered by thin waxy layer and they develop opposite one another on either side of the stem. And environmental conditions, climatic conditions, they mainly determine the number of leaves, which varies from 8 to 22 leaves per plant. Sorghum, we know it is a warm weather crop. It prefers high temperatures for good germination and growth. And minimum temperature for germination, it varies from 7 to 10 degrees centigrade. Here minimum temperature means if temperature goes below 7 degrees centigrade, it won't germinate or germination percentage will be less. And temperature plays very important role in growth and development after germination. Not only in sorghum, in every crop, temperature plays very important role, because every crop will be having certain optimum temperatures for every crop growth stage, like optimum temperature for germination, optimum temperature for vegetative growth, optimum temperature for flowering. If that optimum temperature prevails during that particular growth stage, yield will be high, growth and development will be more. But if temperature is high, either high or low compared to that optimum temperature, it shows some effect on the growth and yield. Here we can see that temperature of 27 to 30 degrees centigrade, it is required for optimum growth and development of sorghum. But temperature, it can be low as 21 degrees centigrade without dramatic effect on growth and yield. Can हम देख सकते हैं ऑप्टिमम टेम्परेचर 27 से 30 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड तक चाहिए, लेकिन अगर टेम्परेचर 21 तक भी जा सकता है, वो ग्रोथ में इफेक्ट नहीं पड़ेगा। अगर 21 से कम हो गया तब ग्रोथ एंड यील्ड में इफेक्ट पड़ेगा। लेकिन अगर इस रेंज में हो तो 27 से 30 तक, तो यील्ड विल बी मैक्सिमम। Exceptionally high temperatures, they can cause a decrease in yield. If high temperature prevails during this flower initiation and the development of flower primordia, that the flowering will be delayed, which will be having impact on that yield. Drought tolerance. Sorghum is having this drought tolerance capacity compared to most of other cereals and millets. It is having high tolerance capacity. It is because of some certain characters which we are going to discuss now. First one, it is having very well developed and finely branched root system. If root system is strong, it can just like a base. If base is strong, automatically house will be strong. If basement is strong, a house will be strong. It is like that. If it is having strong root system, then plant will be strong. And the main advantage is because of the strong root system, it absorbs the water. Mainly, it is efficient in absorption of water. Even if soil moisture is less, it goes to deeper layers of soil and it absorbs the water. And it has small leaf area per plant. We have seen it is having very small leaf area compared to maize. If small leaf area is there, transpiration will be less and moisture loss from plant will be very less. And these leaves fold up more efficiently during warm and dry conditions. Whenever they sense the moisture stress, these leaves automatically they fold up. And here we can see transpiration ratio. This transpiration ratio of sorghum is 1 is to 310, but for maize it is 1 is to 400. That means for producing 1 part of dry matter, it needs 310 parts of water. But for maize, for producing 1 part of dry matter, it needs 400 parts of water. So compared to maize, it needs less amount of water to produce dry matter. That's why it can survive in dryland areas also. And stomata declose rapidly to limit water loss. Epidermis of leaf, it is covered with a waxy layer. If waxy layer is present, even it protects the crop from pests and disease also, and it protects the plant from desiccation in moisture stress. And during dry periods, this it has the ability to remain in virtually dormant stage. That means if there is moisture stress, just it will press that pause button and it will goes to dormant stage, and it will remain in that dormant stage for for a period of time. And if conditions become favorable, then it resumes the growth. Just first, if moisture stress is there, just it goes to dormant stage till favorable conditions are available. If favorable conditions, that means if auto moisture content is present, again it resumes the growth. Even though sometimes main stem die, the side shoots they can develop and they form seed whenever water supply improves. Suppose main stem stalk is there, if it dies because of some stress, when side shoots are there, they develop and they form the seed. In this table, you can see the growth stages of sorghum. It is having 5 growth stages. First one is seedling stage. It starts from 1 to 15 days after sowing, and vegetative stage it ranges from 16 to 40 days after sowing. This vegetative stage it includes grand growth stage also, and from 30 to 40 days after sowing. Grand growth stage means there will be rapid elongation of internodes and growth will be high. Next, flowering stage from 41 to 65 days after sowing. Maturity from 66 to 95 days after sowing. Ripening 96 to 105 days after sowing. And seed rate of sorghum is 12 to 15 kg per hectare. And spacing 45 into 12 centimeters. That means row to row distance is 45 centimeters. Plant to plant distance is 12 centimeters. And plant population, optimum plant population is 1,50,000 plants per hectare. Sowing depth should be around 3 to 4 centimeters. Thinning, it is very important operation in sorghum. In thinning, just will remove the disease and pest infected plants. And even if plant population is uneven, just will remove the uneven plants to maintain optimum plant population. First thinning, it should be done at 10 to 15 days after sowing. And second thinning, it should be done at 25 to 30 days after sowing. Water management, sorghum, it is mainly grown as a rain-fed crop. Rain-fed crop means for water, it entirely depends upon rainfall. Generally, and it is grown in rain-fed areas, dryland areas, because if suppose irrigation source is there, irrigation facilities are there, farmers they will go for maize crop only because maize is high yielding and it will be highly profitable. But it needs around 6 irrigations. That's why if irrigation facilities are not there, and then farmers will go for this sorghum crop. That's why it is only grown in rain-fed areas, dryland areas. It is known as water sipping crop because it uses water very efficiently, and its requirement is 425 to 610 millimeters of water. And germination, seedling, flowering, grain formation stages, they're critical for irrigation in the sense at these four stages they needs moisture, optimum amount of soil moisture. We should maintain that optimum level at these four stages, otherwise yield will be reduced, especially 50 to 85 days after sowing. That means flowering to maturity, that stage is very sensitive to moisture stress. We should avoid that moisture stress at that growth stage. Nutrient management, adequate and balanced nutrition is required. It's not only for sorghum, for every crop, adequate and balanced nutrition is required. Generally, under irrigated conditions, recommended dose is 100 kg of nitrogen, 50 kg of phosphorus, and 40 kg of potassium. But most probably it is grown under rain-fed conditions only. Under those conditions, recommended dose is 60 kg of nitrogen, 30 kg of phosphorus, and 30 kg of potassium. Here you see always recommended dose of fertilizer in rain-fed conditions is less compared to the irrigated conditions, because in irrigated conditions that soil moisture will be present. Plant nutrient uptake and availability, it entirely depends upon the soil moisture only. If soil moisture is more, it can easily take the nutrients, that's why it needs more nutrients. But in rain-fed conditions, soil moisture is less, so if soil moisture is less, that the nutrient uptake is less, that's why less dose is recommended. Even if you apply more amount of fertilizer in these rain-fed conditions, plant won't be in a condition to take those nutrients, and these nutrients will be lost. And half dose of nitrogen, full dose of potassium, phosphorus and potassium, they shall be applied at the time of sowing as a basal dose, and remaining half of N, it shall be top dosed at 30 to 35 days after sowing. Weed management, critical period of weed competition is 4 to 6 weeks after sowing. We should maintain field weed free up to that period. Even crop rotation with crops like soybean, cotton, or intercropping with cowpea, groundnut, they will reduce the striker problem. Striga asiatica, it is a parasite on sorghum. If we crop rotate with soybean or cotton, these crops they act as a trap crops. Suppose for 3 years continuously we have grown sorghum. Next year, if you grow the cotton in that field, this striga it will germinate. Generally, it depends upon sorghum crop for nutrition. If cotton is grown, this tree germinates, and because of lack of nutrition, it automatically dies. That is called as suicidal germination of striga. That's why we should go for crop rotation, and even intercropping with cowpea groundnut. They reduce the striga problem. Generally, hand weeding or mechanical weeding. This is the most common practice in sorghum to control the weed population. If labor are not available, then we can go for herbicides. In this table, we can see the different herbicides recommended for sorghum. Atrazine, it is a common herbicide for even maize crop also. Pendimethalin and metolachlor, these three they can be applied as pre-emergency herbicides. Atrazine recommended dose is 0.75 to 1 kg active ingredient per hectare. It is effective against both grasses and broadleaf weeds. Pendimethalin rate is 1 kg active ingredient per hectare. It is effective against most of the grasses. And metolachlor 1 to 1.5 kg active ingredient per hectare. It is also effective against most of the grasses. And 2,4-D application rate is 0.5 to 0.75 kg per hectare. It is a post-emergency herbicide. It is effective against most of the broadleaf weeds. Generally, the sorghum hybrids and varieties they take 100 to 115 days to mature. And right stage for harvest is when grains become hard. That means moisture content it should be less than 25%. And best stage to harvest sorghum is when they reach physiological maturity. We can identify physiological maturity by observing the black spot on the bottom of grain. If that black spot develops on bottom of grain, we can go for harvesting of sorghum. But if we want to store that sorghum grains for long term, moisture content should be less than 13.5%. And the sorghum plus pigeon pea intercropping. Generally, the sorghum it is grown in semi-arid regions only. So if we go for intercropping, we can get extra yield. That means we can get extra income through intercropping. These so researchers have identified the sorghum plus pigeon pea in 1:1 ratio or 2:2 ratio. It is highly productive and profitable. And sweet sorghum is there, just like sweet corn, sweet maize, sweet sorghum is there. Main use of this sweet sorghum is ethanol. Ethanol can be extracted from the stalk, means stem. It can be blended with petrol. That means it can be mixed with petrol. Generally, petrol which we use is not 100% pure. 10% ethanol need to be added. This ethanol it can be extracted from sweet sorghum, and this can be used as a biofuel, which will reduce the fuel prices also. But this sweet sorghum it is having multiple uses. Uh, it gives grain yield like normal sorghum, and ethanol it can be extracted from that stem stalk, and the leaves it can be used as a livestock feed for like a fodder to livestock. Sorghum it is having this hydrogen cyanide during at initial stages that concentration will be maximum. Generally it will be maximum at 35 to 40 days after sowing. That time we should not feed that sorghum to animals, otherwise animals will die. And if that concentration is more than 200 ppm, it is toxic. Generally this HCN concentration it increases under moisture stress, so we should take care of that moisture stress. Or if we irrigate the crop, that the HCN concentration it will be reduced, and it decreases generally after 40 days after growth. Here we can see it is maximum during this 35 to 40 days after sowing, and it decreases automatically when crop enters the reproductive stage. One specific term is there, sorghum injury. Sorghum, the stubbles. After harvesting, generally farmers they leaves the stubbles or roots in the field itself, and the stubbles will be having high CN ratio, around 50 to 70:1. That means they are having very less amount of nitrogen. And because of these stubbles, microbes they immobilize the nitrogen in the soil for decomposition of these stubbles. This is a temporary immobilization. That means soil nitrogen is not available for some period of time. Suppose at the same time, if you grow the next crop in the same field, succeeding crop, it suffers from nitrogen deficiency. So to avoid this one, we should go for extra 25% application of nitrogen to avoid the sorghum injury for a succeeding crop. Suppose in Kharif we have grown sorghum. In Rabi we are growing chickpea. The chickpea it will suffer from nitrogen deficiency because of the sorghum injury. So we should apply 25% extra nitrogen for the chickpea crop. For a sorghum, that means fodder sorghum, the seed rate of fodder sorghum is 30 to 40 kg per hectare and spacing is 30 centimeters row to row. Here we can see for normal sorghum, we want more grain yield. That's why optimum plant population should be maintained. But fodder sorghum, we want more dry matter production. That means more number of leaves. That's why seed rate will be high and the spacing will be less, such that we can accommodate maximum number of plants. Two types are there. First one is single cut fodder sorghum. That means it can give yield for once only for one time. Multi cut means it can give multiple times, just like a ratoon crop. Single cut, it should be harvested at 50% flowering to full flowering stage, and yield is 50 tons per hectare. Multi cut, first cut, that means first harvest should be done at 55 days after sowing. After that, subsequent cuts they should be done at 40 days interval, and the yield will be 70 tons per hectare. And the scientists have developed so many single cut and multi cut varieties and hybrids. So next crop is pearl millet, that is bajra. Scientific name is Penicillium glaucum, and family of bajra is Poaceae. Origin is Africa. It is one of the major coarse grain crops. It is also known as poor man's food. This bajra, it is known as poor man's food. It is having 11.6% protein, 5% fat, and 67% carbohydrates, and 2.7% minerals. You see, compared to other cereals and millets, this bajra it will be having high content of minerals. That is 2.7%. Like other cereals, it is also having this two types of root system: primary root system and secondary root system. Primary develops from the seed, and first it penetrates deep into the soil. When seedling reaches 2 to 3 leaf stage, these primary roots automatically they will decay, and secondary roots they develop from the bud. These are also called as fibrous root system or adventitious root system. And one more root system is there, that is prop roots. As we discussed, they arise from nodes above the soil surface. This fibrous root system they develop from nodes below the soil surface. And the main function of this prop roots is it gives anchorage to the plants, anchorage to tall plants like maize, sorghum, and bajra. Optimum conditions required for bajra are generally it prefers warm and dry climate, and 28 to 30 degrees centigrade it is optimum for its vegetative growth. And seed rate required is 4 to 5 kg per hectare, and spacing is 45 to 50 centimeters row to row spacing and 10 centimeters plant to plant spacing. And optimum plant population is 1,75,000 to 2 lakhs plants per hectare. And optimum time of sowing is first fortnight of July. But in case of late sowing, in case of late arrival of monsoon, transplanting is recommended because it saves 1 month of time. Suppose there is no rainfall in that July month, so it's better to go for nursery in 500 square meter area, because for nursery maintenance less amount of water is required, less care is required, so we can grow it for 1 month. And as soon as monsoon arrives, we can go for transplanting of that seedlings. Generally 3 to 4 weeks transplanting old seedlings are transplanted. Water requirement of bajra is very less compared to cereals and millets. it just needs 250 to 350 millimeters of water. If suppose irrigation source is there, at least one stage, that is year head emergence. Irrigation should be given at this year head emergence. But bajra, it does not tolerate waterlogging, so proper drainage should be present. Even if some heavy rainfall happens, we should take care of that water through drainage. That water should be sent out. Otherwise, that yield will be reduced. Some of moisture conservation practices are there, because generally bajra it will be grown in dry areas and warm areas. Mulches, like with the help of vegetative material or plastic mulches or polythene mulches, they helps in moisture conservation. And anti-transparent like kaolin, mobileaf, anti-transparents, they reduce the transpiration and they conserve the moisture in the plant. And even ridge and furrow system of planting. Ridge and furrow system means this plant it should be grown on ridges. Furrows, they will be useful in saving, like storing the moisture. If suppose heavy rainfall happens, these furrows they will store the rain, and with the help of furrows, extra amount of water it can be sent out. And even during period of moisture stress, this we can give supplement irrigation. Deep ploughing once in 3 to 4 years. Deep ploughing in the soils is recommended because it improves the water holding capacity of the soil and breaking up of upper soil crust. Generally, it happens in dryland areas. The soil crust will happen, and even evaporation loss will be more. So we should break that upper soil crust to reduce that evaporation from the soil. These are some of moisture conservation practices to be followed while growing this bajra crop. And nutrient management, nutrient requirement is very less for bajra crop. Generally 40 to 60 kg of nitrogen, 30 to 40 kg of phosphorus, and 30 to 40 kg of potassium it is recommended. In light soils, that means sandy soils, this applied nitrogen it may be lost through leaching because of heavy rains. So only half of recommended nitrogen dose and full dose of phosphorus and potassium it should be applied at the time of seed bed preparation. Remaining half it can be side dressed when crop is 25 days old. Weed management, critical period of weed management is up to 35 days after sowing. So atrazine is recommended in this bajra crop, 0.5 kg active ingredient per hectare. And even if simazine and pendimethalin, they are also effective in this bajra crop. If high amount of broadleaf weeds are there, we can go for application of 2,4-D. This best stage to harvest pearl millet is when plant reach physiological maturity. It can be determined by black spot at the bottom of grain in the hilar region. So just like sorghum crop, we can observe the black spot at the bottom of grain. It is an indicator that plant reaches physiological maturity so that we can harvest the crop. When the crop matures, generally these leaves they turn yellowish and nearly they gives dry appearance. And moisture content in grains is 50 to 20%. It is ideal for this harvest. But if you want to store the crop for long period, if you want to store the grains for long period, moisture content it should be less than 12%. See. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
अगर आप लोग का डाउट्स है तो आप मीन्स हिंदी में पूछ सकते हैं.
एक्सक्यूज मी सर.
यस
सर आप हमें ये जो पीपीटीज है ये सेंड कर सकते हो, ये 3-4 क्रॉप्स की जो आपने करवा दी है, ताकि हम अच्छे से रिव्यू कर सके बाद में.
ठीक है. मतलब आप ओ अपना अपना मेल आईडी भेजिए, मैं शेयर करता हूँ.
ओके सर, ठीक है सर. थैंक यू.
थैंक यू.
Thank you, sir.